Okay, awesome. Um, cool. Yes. So let's begin this with a throwback to me in 2018 when I was where most of you are right now in the third year. How was I back then? So this was how I looked. I had no clue what I was doing. I I was like doing random things all around. I had mediocre grades, like I had 7.5, 7.35. Like this were my grades basically. I was never the topper of the class or academically great or anything like that. I kinda liked CS, but I was not so sure. I mean, I liked CS because it was I understood the logic behind it, which made it easier for me to prepare for exams and give exams. But I was never really like totally into it. Uh, I was always I just liked it from afar, like, but I was never really into it. So I was not so sure. Everything seemed to be super important to learn. So there's a story like when we were in our second semester, senior came to my class and then they were like, they filled the board with all these things that you're supposed to learn: database management systems, computer networks, and like what not. They had like all this, a huge list of things that you're supposed to study. And I was like, this is like too much, right? Like I don't like one, I don't like studying a lot, and then two, they're telling me that all these subjects that I'm studying not so greatly are very important. Yeah, so that was something that I was overwhelmed from. One more thing that I was doing was I was randomly choosing some free courses on YouTube, Udemy, Udacity, and all these other platforms that are available. And I was just trying to like move around, learn something. I don't know. Like it was all a bit chaotic. So now let's look at me now. There's a mask that this girl is wearing because we all know why. So I am working at Obvious. I'm a product engineer there, working in the Android team. I think I'm pretty happy where I am. I'm working in a company that I really like with amazing people I totally look up to. She's my mentor and manager, by the way. And yeah, the work culture is just mind blowing. And the money, the office infrastructure, utilities, extra benefits, and everything is just like over the top. This is our Bangalore office, by the way. So the question is, how did I get from here to here? Although I would say that I was clueless back then, and I still feel that there's just so many things that I don't know. But now I know that there are so many things that I don't know, right? And I think that's a little bit of an upgrade for me, at least. So I want to share. I have a few steps that I've curated for all of you to take away from this presentation, which will help you in which will help you in deciding what you should be doing in the next 6 months. But before that, I would like to share a few learnings or a few realizations that I've had in this whole little sweet journey of mine. So yeah, let's talk about those realizations. So the first one is that learning is everything. So I can't talk about this enough, right? Because uh, this is a very abstract thing that you must be listening everywhere. Everyone must be saying that learning is this, learning is that. But uh, honestly, to understand what this really means, it's maybe gonna take some time for you. Maybe some doing of actually learning a lot and lot and lot, and then you will realize that that's just what everything is. So I would like to quote Jack Ma, the CEO of Alibaba here. He said that in your 20s, you should follow a good boss and learn and learn and learn. So that when you're in your late 20s, you can be a good boss yourself or don't have to learn to do things the right way later on. This is a very important thing to ponder on, right? Because when we are in our 20s, there are a lot of factors that come into place while we are choosing a place to work at. But nobody tells us what are the actual things that we should be taking care of. Like thing. What we all mostly care about is like, how is the brand? Do people know the company I work in? How much money is being paid? And all these other hypothetical things, which are important, but not more important than, are you gonna learn a lot? Is your boss, how focused is the company in your learning? And like all these things, right? So why I think internships are important, because internship is like a trial period where you can judge if what kind of work culture, what kind of manager, what kind of learning curve is that works for you, and which will help you when you are like going out and working as a full-time person, to actually learn from the right people. And this is something that you should always keep in mind. The other thing that I would like to talk about is that if you are a skilled engineer, then you have a good job. This comes from someone from my senior when we were in our first year. Uh, this is our senior Ashish Gupta. He came to our class and gave us a talk, and he said that engineers are not unemployed because there are no jobs, but they are unemployed because they are not skilled, and there is a dire need in the market for skilled engineers. And this is something that stuck with me for the longest time, because it's true, right? Like if you are skilled, if you are really skilled, and if you are good, then there are plenty of jobs out there. I personally know so many companies who are constantly looking for people, who are constantly looking for talent, skill in the market, because uh, there's so many companies that are coming up every day. There's so many new products that are being built every day, and they need employees. And most of the good people are already hired, which is also why engineers are paid a lot, because the demand is really high and the supply is like fairly low. Um, so the important question here is like, why is there unemployment? Because people are not skilled. Uh, so what we are here to focus on is being skilled. So if we learn properly, then then we become a skilled engineer, and then we are successful, right? So I would like to quote Rancho from Three Idiots here, that excellence के पीछे भागो, फिर देखो success कैसे झक मार के तुम्हारे पीछे आएगी. And quite recently, I resonated with this thought a lot, because when I heard it, I was like, yeah, fine, sure. But now I actually can feel or really know what he actually meant, right? And this is something that you all should also maybe you all can also maybe take away from that. If you chase excellence, then success will come behind you. And that is what I said here. Like if you chase learning, if you learn more and more and more, you'll become more and more skilled, and then you will become successful. Um, so, yeah, so let's talk more about what do I mean by learning. Um, so learning, so we expect learning to be like this, right? Like I keep pushing myself, I keep doing good, and then I become an expert, and I keep becoming an expert. But this is not how it goes. How it goes is I learn a little bit, and then I think that, oh wow, I'm pretty good at this. Like for example, a lot of people, you might find some people in your class saying that I'm a pro at this, I'm a pro at that, and honestly, people who are doing things from 10 years, 20 years, 30 years still say that they're not pro at that. So so what happens here is that after a certain point, if you start thinking that, yes, I'm pro at this and I don't need to learn more, then you become a beginner expert. And that's where your growth is stagnant. There's also one more thing that I would like to talk about, is something that we do as engineers a lot, is that we drop out, right? Like um, my ID is not making Android Studio work. Android Studio ID is not working on my laptop, or things like, I don't know, like in the beginning phase, there are a lot of errors that are coming in, and you're not able to do a simple thing, and you just think that, no, this is not for me, and I cannot do this. And yeah, and then you just give up. So so what we have to focus on here is, right, that we have to cross the suck threshold, but not forget that that's not the end of it. this is a long, long, long journey where you will be learning every single day of your life for as long as it is. It's like being a lawyer or a doctor, right? Like when you when they're like that, there are new things coming in every single day. There are new things that you can learn from. There are new technologies that you have to be updated about. Because if you don't learn for 2 3 years in a software development field, then you will realize that you've become a dinosaur, because there's so many new things that have come up, and there's so many new things that are there in the uh, market that you don't know about. So it's always about learning, 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 and just pushing yourself every single day. And I think this is also the exciting part about this, right? About being in this industry, that uh, it never gets boring. It's always very interesting. Always have uh, the motivation to do more, to learn more, because there's just so many things that I'm not aware of. So, so let's talk about 6 simple steps that will help you grow as an individual. That will help you get great internships. That will help you get a great job eventually, and like what all we are here for, right? So these are few steps that you should be keeping in mind and maybe take a note of, because they might be quite a lot. So yeah, so let's talk about this. So the step one of getting a good intern in 6 months, or or being a great individual, or I don't know. So yeah, so the step one is that you're supposed to figure out your interest, right? For me, it was Android. It can be anything for you. Um, and but the problem with this is that there is an overwhelming list of options to choose from. There is AI, there's backend, data science, big data, machine learning, cybersecurity. There's just so many options to choose from. What do I choose? Where do I go? Fair question. So now we talk about there are two paths here, um, that we can take. And the first one is you find a certain technology interesting and want to become good at it, which can be Android, web development, machine learning, or anything like that. Or the second option is you like data structures and algorithms and core CS and love coding in general. This is also someone who is very self-aware, right? Like, because they are really good at solving problems, really good at solving uh, data structure and algorithms. So what this person has to focus on is just making this his skill and then becoming really good at that, and learning more and more of data structures and algorithms. So I will talk about what you should do about learning more. But let's first talk about, and yeah, also there is no third option, because you can't do nothing if you want to get a great job. So how to choose what interests you, right? This is me talking about the technologies, or like if you want to choose one technology and you love building things. So it can be like choosing something can be as simple as what you use a lot. So for me, I used to use my phone a lot for Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp, and one day it just clicked me that why not build this? Like, why not build these apps that I use every day? Why not work with a company whose product I'm using every day, right? So this can be a huge motivation for you. Like, for example, if you play games, if you play PUBG, for example, then why not try developing them? Why not be a game developer, or or anything, right? Anything you do, it can be something that you find really cool, like machine learning or AI or blockchain or anything. Like it can be anything. One more way of going about this is that you can explore. You can explore things in your mini projects, hackathons, etc. But right now, like a lot of you people are in your fifth semester, sorry, and you probably don't have a lot of time for this, but you can like spend a week or two for exploring on what you want to choose on, but eventually you will be there. So yeah, just spend some time thinking about this and you will find something, I'm sure. Because ढूंढ के तो भगवान भी मिल जाता है. So one more thing that I would like to mention here is that focus on one thing. You have about 5 or 6 months now from going from zero to not zero, but going from step 1 to step 6, right? And you can't be good at data structures and algorithms and be good at Android and then get a great internship, because that's not possible, because both of those things need a lot of your effort. And so it's okay if you focus on one thing. Just focus on one technology, one skill, one interest of yours that you want to focus on, and put in all your efforts for it in the next 5 or 6 months. You don't have to make a permanent decision of this is what I'm going to do for all my life, because it's not all your life. It's just a year or two when you are doing an internship or your first job, and you can eventually choose another field if you want to. But it's important that right now you focus on one thing and don't be overwhelmed with 10 different things. Although data structures and algorithms is a very important skill to be good at as a computer science engineer, but if it's something that you are very which you are not familiar with, and if you become a really great Android engineer or a really great web developer, then still you can get jobs. And yes, and for example, me, like, I'm not the best at data structures and algorithms, but I focused on learning Android, or focused on being good at that, and yeah, here I am, doing pretty good. uh, so yeah, the step two is learning. um, you have to spend, and this is the most important step, right? Because learning is everything. Building that skill, chasing excellence is everything. So you're supposed to learn and learn and learn and learn, and this is what we are supposed to focus on the most. Uh, so let's see how to approach learning a skill. So we are assuming here that you have figured out your technology or your interest that you want to work on, and now you are looking for how do I deep dive into this, right? How do I actually structure my learning? So for that, I have a few things that you can keep in mind. The first, that find out the best places slash courses to deep dive in your respective skill firm. So for Android, for example, it was Udacity's nano degree course that I did, which helped me deep dive into it. Uh, or for you, it can be anything. For example, if you want to become a great data structures engineer, like you want to become great at data structures, there are a lot of platforms like CodeChef, LeetCode, HackerRank, and everything. Like, you can just choose one and keep solving uh, 6 or 7 problems every single day for the next 6 months, and you will become so good at it that nobody can deny you of any job, right? So yeah, so how do you find the best places or courses to deep dive in your respective skill form is a good question to ask. So one is find and consult the pros in the field. So it's very important that you spend some time to find people who are really good. Like, for example, if you want to do Android, then you find someone who's really great at Android, that what can I refer to become really good at it? Or if someone's doing web development or machine learning or anything, like, uh, it's important for you to find out someone or something that who can guide you to the right way, because uh, they will tell you the best thing there is. Yeah, and the second way of finding out a good course that you can follow is obviously doing enough research on Quora, Google, or Reddit, or any other platform, and it can eventually point you in the right direction. Finding the right course to do something is extremely important, uh, course or platform, because that is what is something that you're gonna spend your next 4 or 5 months on, uh, to make consistent efforts to become great at it. So it's important for you to do enough research, ask enough questions from your seniors, from your teachers, uh, from business professionals, or anyone you can find to uh, point you at the right direction. The second thing I would like to talk about is that it's completely okay to invest time and money in some course. Um, more importantly, that it's completely okay to spend money in some course, because even when I was in my third year, I was very against paying money for courses, because I thought that everything is available for free online. Then why should I even go and spend time or money in courses? I've already spent so much money in my college, and it doesn't seem beneficial. But uh, my mentor, a friend of mine who was also my mentor, he told me that uh, he basically gave me this course which was paid, and he told me that you should do this. And for the next 6 months I was doing that course, and that's all what I had focused on, and it actually gave me great results. So as you can see in this image, when you are investing money or time in any course, you are growing more money. um, so I would like to talk about some benefits that you will have when you are spending time on a course. It adds a certain amount of pressure slash push to actually complete the course, because you will be overwhelmed with a lot of things that are happening in college, like classes, daily classes, projects, end semester exams, and everything. Like for me, I was making a very serious projects just 5 days before my end semester exam started, and it it was like constant amount of pressure that I had, that I have to complete this. But I wouldn't have had that if for example, if I hadn't paid for the course. So I mean, at least that's true for me. And there's also one more thing that is very important, is that paid courses are generally very well structured to serve the purpose it promises to. Um, this is also a very important point, right? Because if you look around and find out from all these free courses or free things that are available, they're not very well structured. They are like bits and pieces here and there from which you can pick and choose from, and then uh, gain knowledge. But paid courses are generally very well structured and curated to cover all the things that you need to know to become a great like to become a good professional at that field, or to basically begin with that field. Third, you get access to industry mentors and peers you can seek help from. This is also something very important, because generally don't have these accessible to you in general. And having constant help from people who are helping you to do good at the to whatever course you have got is something that is really helpful, right? And the last one is that certificate is not what you should be doing a course for, because the value that you gain from the course is a lot greater than the certificate. I've been seeing that a lot of people have been posting a lot of these certificates that they have been doing, but your certificate, the value of your certificate increases like uh, as as the value of the as the value that you've gained from the courses. So, for example, if you spend 6 months in a course, then the certificate actually means something. But what means more than the certificate is that what you learned, what you actually did. So that's what's more important, and that's what we should be focusing on. Um, when I'm talking about paying for a course, I don't mean that that's the only way to go about it. For me, it worked. It can be different for different technologies. For example, if you're choosing to become great at data structures and algorithms, um, you don't need to pay for anything there, I think. Or like, because CodeChef and all these platforms are free to use. Um, you can also So yeah, so it's all about figuring out which course is the best. And if you find out that some course which is the best for what you want to learn is paid, then I believe that it's completely okay to pay for it. Uh, so yeah, the third point that I want to talk about is build quality projects. So as we can see in this image, right? If you do 10 projects which are small, which you made in a week, in 2 days, in 3 days, like a lot of your mini projects, a lot of your college projects, and all these things that you have done, um, those hold actually very little amount of value in your skill set, right? So it's more important that you build quality projects, that you have that the project that you get the most skills from is the one you have spent the most time on. And quality projects can be built on some can take about a month to make it, or like a 2 months to make it, a year to make it, or it can take an amount of time. And that is what would also be interesting to talk about, right? You cannot talk about a project that you made in overnight to an interviewer, because he will know that you made it overnight, and it would actually not add any value to your skill set. One more thing that I want to talk about is that take help from professionals. And this is something that is really, really important to keep in mind, because you right now are just jumping in the sea of knowledge, right? Like in this first image, and you don't know how to swim. You don't know how to go and try out things and everything. And if you just jump inside and without taking any help from anyone, you will end up drowning, right? And you will end up where I said in that graph, that you will be in the dropout zone, because you will realize, oh my God, this is not for me. But if you take help from professionals, you will slowly and eventually learn how to swim, how to do things right. And uh, that is something that is going to go for the longer way. So it's really important to take help. So the professional that I'm talking about here can be anyone, from your seniors, from uh, people who are working in the industry, or basically anyone you can talk to. You can reach out to these people through Twitter, through LinkedIn, through WhatsApp, through uh, any platform there, and people would you would be surprised on how much people would like to help you on things. And that's how we learn, right? Like that's how we take information from other people, and that's how we learn, because right now we are just people who don't know how to swim in the ocean. um so yeah, so now let's look at the step 3. um this is an interesting step, which I think a lot of you might be finding helpful. um so yeah, so the step 3 is making a resume. So before talking about making resumes, just a second. Yeah. So one thing that we should keep in mind is, for example, if I'm a professional and I'm going to interview for a job, suppose, and so how the amount of time that I as a professional is going to spend uh, to look at your resume is about 30 seconds. Maybe the HR people take a lot more time and go really in detail of what is written. But I, as a professional who's working as an employee of the company, would probably look at your resume for 30 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes. And what we want to focus at here is, right, that how do I impress someone in 30 seconds uh, of looking at a sheet of paper? And that's a great question. And so yeah, so let's spend um, yeah just so yeah, so let's spend some time reviewing a resume. So when someone looks at my resume, they will be seeing that, yeah, she has experience in Android. She has worked with a company named Obvious. She has worked with a company named Dunzo for Android internship. She has uh, she's worked on some projects, and those are all Android projects. She's done a Udacity course. These are some skill extracurricular activities that she's good at. And this is the education, which is okay. And yeah, this is the abstract. And that's it, right? Like that's the 30 seconds that he will be spending. And so what we can take away from this is that when you're building a resume, it's very important to put the technology of the project that the projects are made on. For example, that baking app is an Android app, or Popular Movies is an Android app. The GitHub links are really important. You should always put the GitHub links that of the projects that you've worked on. You should also have a very brief README in the GitHub profile. Also, the extracurricular activities are really important. The quality, and it's also very important that the quality is over quantity. So I've seen a lot of times that people put 15 projects they've done, and but they don't add a lot of value to it. So it's more important that you put in the projects that you've worked really hard on, the projects that you have actually put in effort on, uh, and then you write about things that you have worked on in that particular project. So yeah, so these are a few things that you should take a note of when you are building a resume. Um, yeah. Okay. It's also very important to review, make your friends or seniors or mentors to review your resume before finalizing on one. One more thing that I think people do is that they build something and then they just post it everywhere. And that's not how it should be done. You should be spending time and effort on actually making your resume look good. So even though you think that you have made the perfect resume, you should ask people, you should send your resume to few other people and then ask them for reviews, ask them to read it thoroughly and then give you advice on what you should change or what is good or what is bad. It's really important to give some time to review your resume. It can be like you can take about 4 or 5 days to build a perfect resume, and then in those 4 or 5 days spend the first 2 days building it, and then the other 3 days finalizing it by asking for reviews and making changes from those reviews. A lot of times one mistake that a lot of juniors have done is that they ask me to review their resume and I have like 15 points that I want to tell them, but what happens here is that they don't have time to do all those things because they want to send out their resume tomorrow, and that's not how it works, right? You are supposed to give some time to each and every process. You have to put in effort in each and every process to do it as good as it should be, right? So yeah, these are a few things that you should that do not really add a lot of value to the resume, aka you should probably not add it. This is just my opinion, but this is also something that I've seen a lot of people do, that putting in their resume that the languages they speak in or the college subject or individual courses of each subject that they have studied in college, or random certificates or school achievements, that I won first prize in Kendra Vidyalaya painting competition. Like, no, that's too far away. I don't really think that that's relevant to what I want from you in my company, right? So yeah, so it's really important to focus on every single step that I've talked about in as much depth and detail as possible, which is also why you should be structuring your time in a proper way. The step 4 that I would be talking about is finding the right companies. Okay. Yeah. So, so we've done step 1, we have done step 2, we have built a great resume, but now we need to find the right companies. And what are the right companies for, say, is the companies that want someone like you, who are one who is looking for who have a vacancy of someone like you, who for example, if you are an Android engineer and you want to do an Android internship, then you have to look for companies who are looking for Android interns. um, yeah, and yeah, I think that's the only thing that you should be focusing on as of now for internships. um, so yeah, so one way of going about is that ask your friends, seniors, relatives, etc., or and your teachers. These are people who can refer you in the places and their companies. So this is very important. This is something that I would also talk about in the next few slides a lot. That it's very important to have a network, to know people, or to find people who can find help you point you in the right direction. And it can be anyone, right? You can talk to any senior. There are a lot of seniors who are working at a lot of companies, who can tell you about those companies, who can tell you if those companies are looking for someone like you. And yeah, so you have to make a lot of effort in searching for the right company, and searching for companies that are looking for someone like you, right? And yeah, if you tell me uh, that there are not enough companies out there, then you are wrong, because there are like mil- hundreds and hundreds of companies out there who are looking for people to work with them. And it's just that you have to do enough research. You have to make your effort in finding the right company. So yeah, so after this process, there's one more way of finding companies that you want to work with and who are looking for interns is Internshala and all these online platforms where you can look for these opportunities. Um, yeah. After this entire process of searching companies, you might end up with 50 to 100 names of companies that you can uh, that are looking for someone like you, right? So, so now the question is, how do you get yourself interviewed? How do you approach those companies? Uh, how do you impress them, or how do you schedule an interview? How do you get selected, right? And that's also something that we should be talking about. And I'll come here again that it's the one trick that works the best uh, in when you're looking for companies from which are not coming to your college in specific, is that nothing works better than referrals. Because each and every company has about hundreds and 200s and thousands of applications coming in every single day, and and your application can be very easily mixed up from their eye, or like missed from their eye, and like they would probably not see it. And it's what works best is reference. um, and companies, like one more thing that I would like to mention again and again, that companies are as desperate for good people as you are for good companies. uh, so um, so yeah, dig into your network who could be a good fit for your company. Talk about your successes in your job and make them curious about you. um, so yeah, so this is a image where this person is thinking that dig into your personal network and who could be a good fit for the company, and this is the company thinking that we should talk about our successes in our job and make them curious about us. So basically everyone, they, basically companies are looking for people, you are looking for companies, and there's something that is holding you back. And yeah, and you have to find it, and you have to find those people who are looking for you. So anyways, I took a little road there, but yeah. So how do you find these people who can refer you, right? So one way of going about it is finding connections on LinkedIn who work there. LinkedIn is a great platform to do this, right? Like if you can go to LinkedIn, you can go to to the company's profile, and then you can see who are all the employees working in that company. And then out of those employees, do you know anyone who is a first connection or a second connection or a third connection of anyone in your LinkedIn friend list? And it's so yeah, so and this will eventually, and then for example, if you found out that someone working in company X is your friend's friend, then you try to approach your friend saying that I want to approach your that person who knows that person working in that company. And eventually you will land up talking to that person who is working in that company, and you can ask them to refer you. People will be very happy and glad and always eager to refer you to companies, because there are referral bonuses in a lot of companies, which are basically you get money if someone you referred hired you, um, gets hired and is a good employee. So yeah, so and this is something that is there in a lot of companies, right? More before going into trying third and fourth connections, it's always important to figure out that if there is someone in your own friend list, in your own close group, who knows someone who can help you get a referral in a particular company. Yeah, so then you approach these connections, and yeah, so eventually you will approach about 50 people who will refer you to their company, and you might eventually end up getting about 4 good interviews. This is an expectation that I want to set here, right? Because it's not like you apply for one company, you approach one person, and then you get one interview. No, that's not how it works. You will have to keep applying. It's a long process. You apply for 50 companies, 100 companies, and then you eventually end up getting a few interviews, and that's how it goes. So yeah, so you can apply online. Yeah, so one more thing that is important and we should think about, is that sending emails to career@companyname.org is probably not the best way to go about it, because people have stacks of thousands and thousands of emails there, and your email might be lost in all those other emails. So this is a way you can go about, but I think like if you send about 1,000 or 2,000 of those, then you might get one interview or something. Yeah. So yeah. So the way to go about it is referrals. So let's move ahead. So yeah, step 6 is crack those interviews. So by the time you reach this step, you are already 99% there. And yeah, so I would like to clap for you, the future you who is there already. And you've done most of the important bits. You have done everything that would require your effort and mind energy in. Now, an interview is just you talking about what you have done in those past 6 years, in those past 5 steps. What all you have worked on, what all you have learned from what you have worked on, and that's what it is, right? And yeah, so this is a quote by Coach Penne, who is Nike Run Club's head coach. A 5 kilometer race is only the last 5,000 meter of the hundreds and hundreds of miles you've done before. And this is the way you should be looking at cracking interviews, because these interviews are not about that 1 hour where you're supposed to magically do something where you will just magically impress someone and they will be like, yeah, you come work with us. It's the past work, right? It's the past 5 years, past 5 months, or past 7 months, or whatever you have spent on working in this particular thing which you're going to talk about. And that's the easiest part, because you're so happy, you're so much, there would be so much information in your head that you would already have a lot of things that you can use to talk about. So yeah, there's no you don't need to prepare for interviews, because you've already prepared for them. The past 5 months, 6 months, whatever you have spent on all the past five, uh, on the first to second step, is what is the preparation for your interview. And one more thing that I would like to talk about is being honest about what you know. And beating around the bush is something that you should not do, because the interviewer is a lot smarter than you are, and he will know. So if you don't know something, it's always okay to tell to the interviewer that you don't know this. But when you say that you know this, then you should be sure that you know it. Beating around a bush is never a good tactic. Please don't follow it, and be honest about what you know, because uh, yeah, because even now when I'm working, there are a lot of things that I don't know, right? And thinking that I should be knowing this, or this is something that I should have worked on, or something like that, is not going to help you grow. What is going to help you grow is that accepting that no, I don't know this, and I want to learn this, right? But this is something that I know and I've put my time on, and that's what I'm good at. So it's important to be honest about what you know. And the second tip is that it's not an exam. Don't look at interview like exam. People are not here to test if you are like if you know something or not, uh, but more like a discussion. Like, because when a company is hiring a person, they want to know if the person fits to the company, if the person has relevant information that needs to. So you are getting into the interview only because you have relevant information and knowledge and skill set according to your resume and your LinkedIn profile, which says that you have relevant information. So what the interviewer wants to know is that the relevant information that you've talked about in your resume and in other profiles of yours, did you actually work on them, or are you just lying or something? And yeah, so always approach interviews as a discussion and not an exam, where you have to like ratify things and answer them in the interview. Uh, Also, one more thing that to take a note of is when we are interviewing when someone is interviewing me, for example, then if I am a skilled person, then I might also be judging the company on the basis of the kind of interview that person takes of mine, right? So it's also important for them to how they uh, make the entire interview happen, how much comfortable they make me feel. So it's also as an interviewer, it's also a responsibility for them to make sure that you are comfortable, that make sure that you feel comfortable to share your thoughts, to not be so nervous. And that is something that tells a lot about the company too, right? So if someone is like really good at taking interviews, makes you feel really comfortable and makes you feel that you can say whatever you want to and you can think, gives you space to think, that tells a lot about the work culture and work environment you want to work in, right? So, so yeah, so tip two is it's not an exam. Step seven is you crack the interview and you get the job, you get the internship, and then you celebrate. You maybe send Janvi Didi a piece of cake at her house or something. So yeah, so this is it. This is the approximate time you should spend on these steps. Um, so the first step, that figure out your interest. So this is for people who are in their fifth semesters and have from July to December to get a good internship. So this is sort of the timeline I followed when I was in my fifth semester. So this is what I'm gonna tell you, that the first step, that you have to figure out your interest. So you can spend the and like whole of July that is left from 25th to 30th on figuring out your interest. The first week on figuring out your interest, what all things that there are that you can that you are going to focus on for the next few months. The second step, that is learning the skill, that doing a course or following something is something that you need to spend the most of your effort and energy in. So I've given August, September, October, and November in doing that, building those skill sets. After that, making a resume and finding a company, both of them can be happening simultaneously, which you can do in the first week of December. And applying to those companies and giving interviews can be done in the rest of December. So this is something that really works for people who want to work in companies who are smaller in size, who are startups, who are young companies, and not people who want to go to an MNC or something of that sort, because their hiring processes are a lot longer than this. But I personally wanted to go for startups and smaller companies because I feel that the learning opportunity there is the most. So which is why I did not really give a lot of time to the interview, applying to the company processes. And also one more important thing, that I did not really have a lot of relevant skills that I had until at the end of November, that I could write in my resume to make it look impressive. My last project, I worked on two projects in the Udacity's nano degree course, and the second project was over by 5th December. And from 5th December to 10th December, I built my resume and I applied to companies. It was so I used to work like about 12 hours, 13 hours, 14 hours every single day to um, build a resume, then apply to companies. I used to apply for, I had applied for about 50 companies, but luckily I followed the right path. I used referrals, so the processes were faster, and I was able to schedule interviews faster. So about till 15th of December, I had my interview scheduled, and by about 16th, 17th, and 18th, I had given all my interviews, and by 21st, I had my jobs. I had my all the offers I had. I had all my offers by 16 or 17 by 20, and then on 21st, I accepted an offer and went with it. Uh, so it's completely fine to hold on this process, and it will be a little hard also uh, because in this period, in this particular period, a lot of people around you will be getting internships. A lot of people around you will be, yeah, like constantly going to some places. But and that's what happened with me. By the time I was at the end of my course, everyone in my class was having an internship company that they were going to work in, whereas I had nothing here. But because I trusted my process, because I trusted my mentor steps, I was able to get where I wanted to and not land up somewhere which uh, which was by default decided for me, or somewhere like not so great, right? Um, so yeah, so this is the end of the presentation. These are a few places you can reach out to me at. Um, I'm not so active at LinkedIn, so if you message me there, I might not reply to you as soon as it's possible. You can maybe find my number from someone, or you can contact me on Instagram, Twitter, or email. Uh, I will be available anywhere else at all these places. Um, now let's do the Q&A. So the form I shared with everyone, uh, people asked me a few questions, so I would like to address them first, and then we will do uh, the manual Q&A with everyone else. So yeah, so the few questions that people asked was, the first question is, how did I get myself prepared for the work atmosphere? You don't have to do this. You don't have to prepare yourself for the work atmosphere. The first 2 5 steps is the effort that you have to put in to get into that work atmosphere. And now it's their job to make you feel comfortable and make you feel at place in the company. So it's not your responsibility to care about that. You should only care about building your skills. I am an iOS developer, but near our college there are not so many companies which have interns for our iOS developers. So what should be my decision? Um, do you want to work in Lovely? Uh, why is the location a restriction? You can work in anywhere in the country or in the world. It just has to be a relevant internship. And I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of places out there in Bangalore, in Pune, in Bombay, where you can find companies which have iOS, which will need iOS interns. Can we do internship in abroad by working at home? Sure. Uh, Must needed courses which would help in almost all recruitment. So I think I've answered the first question. The second question is something that is again out of the scope of this presentation. This is something that you should talk to after getting the internship, talk to your mentor about. It can be different for different companies, but mainly you should be focusing on doing great work, and that should be ending up in you getting a TPO. The prerequisites to make up into the interview session, I've talked about this. Is it necessary to clear backlogs for applying? No, it's not, honestly, because, but then you have to also find companies who really don't care about this. And a lot of startups I know don't. Maybe a lot of companies that come to college might care about this. But again, if you're great at a skill of if you're great at the skill of yours, you can be a college dropout and you can still score a great job. You can still I don't know, do something great, earn a lot of money. But one thing that you should focus on is being great at what you do. What skill set does the recruiter expect a student to have? So in the context of the presentation, when a recruiter has seen your resume, the skill set they would expect you to have is what you have written in the resume. How to crack these entrance exams for interviews? Um, yeah, so this is a good question. If you are, so my presentation was mostly about if you want to apply for companies outside of college. But yes, there are a lot of entrance exams that happen, which for a software development internship will have data structures in them. And this is something that I personally did not focus on a lot because I got a lot of interviews without giving the entrance exams. But you can spend a few weeks in working on data structure skills of yours to crack these interviews. What are the important things to definitely write on your resume? I've talked about that. How to give correct answers for interviews. Again, I've talked about that too. Yeah. Thank you for being here, everyone. It was great having you all. It was great doing this presentation. I hope you all found it really helpful. And also, there will be a feedback form that I will be sending you this for this call. Okay, I'll be sending a feedback form. Please fill it. And if you would like to ask more questions, hit me up on, I don't know, whatever platform you find me in. And yeah, thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.